Just to give you a sense for how long this goes back, and we've shown you this before. I had a debate with Alan Dershowitz last year in New York on the question of whether the U.S. should strike Iran's nuclear program. Shockingly, he wants the U.S. to. And I went through 15 minutes of news articles going back many, many years where we were told, and the Israelis were warning, that the Iranians were like seconds away from getting a nuclear bomb. We had no choice but to attack because they're about to get one. But I didn't realize how far back even then that it went. Here from the United Press International, which used to be the big wire service along with AP, is April 24th, 1984. The Ayatollah bomb is in production for Iran. That's the headline. Quote, Iran is moving, quote, very quickly toward production of a nuclear bomb and could have such a weapon within 2 years, the authoritative Jane's Defense Weekly reported today. Jane's quoted news reports as saying production on Iranian nuclear, Ayatollah Khomeini's nuclear bomb was, quote, entering its final stages, and that construction would follow completion of a nuclear power plant being built with the help of West German experts. Jane's weekly editor, Robert Hutchinson, said although the report originated with the Arabian Gulf Press, quote, we checked it out and it seems to stand up. The indications are that the Iranians are moving that way and moving that way very quickly. It's 1984, 5 years after the Iranian Revolution. So that's basically 40 years ago, a little bit over 40 years ago. Here from Ynet News, which is part of the Israeli press. This is April of 2015. This is from a 1992 article in Hebrew that Ynet republished. Here is the headline. Netanyahu in 1993 says this, Iran will have a bomb by 1999. The prime minister has been warning for over 20 years that Tehran is close to achieving its pursuit of nuclear weapons. Quote, the most dangerous threat to Iran's existence, to Israel's existence, does not lie in the Arab countries, but in Iran. Then MK, member of parliament, Benjamin Netanyahu wrote in a column in February 1993, quote, the rulers of Iran have said repeatedly that they will have an Islamic bomb and that its first target will be Israel. He argued in a piece titled, quote, the greatest danger, claiming that Iran will develop its first nuclear bomb by 1999, which at the time this report was 16 years ago. It's now 26 years ago, and it didn't happen. Netanyahu, who served as a member of the Knesset at the time, wrote about the Iranian regime 22 years ago, saying that, quote, it is our duty to make sure in advance that the regime will not obtain the tools necessary to realize its aspirations. Here from the New York Times, January of 1995, Iran may be able to build an atomic bomb in 5 years, U.S. and Israeli officials fear. It's 30 years ago. Here from 20 years ago, NBC News, December 2005, Netanyahu warns of Iran nuclear threat. Iran should take, quote, bold and courageous action against arch foe Iran's nuclear program, similar to its 1981 airstrike on the main Iraqi atomic reactor. Former Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said on Sunday, Israeli officials have said that unless stopped, Iran will achieve the know-how to build a bomb by March of next year. The Israel loyalist Jeffrey Goldberg, now the editor-in-chief of The Atlantic, wrote a cover story on exactly this issue in September of 2010, that's 15 years ago, called The Point of No Return, where he essentially says he went to Israel. Everybody agrees that Iran is about to get a nuclear weapon. This is sort of the window where it's kind of the last chance of being able to stop Israel from doing so. That's 16 years ago. Here is Netanyahu in one of his most notorious appearances. And it's amazing, this is 2012. It seems like this was just so recently, but it just shows how long this same propagandistic narrative has been deliberately disseminated, notwithstanding the fact that we all heard the same thing about Iraq, only for it to be proven untrue. This is Netanyahu. He went to the United Nations. He had a cartoon-like graphic designed to convey the urgency and the imminence of stopping Iran. And here's what he said.
So how much enriched uranium do you need for a bomb? And how close is Iran to getting it? Well, let me show you. Brought a diagram for you. Here's a diagram. This is a bomb. This is a fuse. the case of Iran's nuclear plans to build a bomb, this bomb has to be filled with enough enriched uranium. And Iran has to go through 3 stages. The first stage, they have to enrich enough low enriched uranium. The second stage, they have to enrich enough medium enriched uranium. And the third stage and final stage, they have to enrich enough high enriched uranium for the first bomb. Where's Iran? Iran's completed the first stage. Took them many years, but they completed it, and they're 70% of the way there. Now they're well into the second stage. And by next spring, at most, by next summer, at current enrichment rates, they will have finished the medium enrichment and move on to the final stage. From there, it's only a few months, possibly a few weeks.
And for those of you listening and don't remember this graphic, it was not only extremely crude and primitive, almost laughably so, but the part of the final stage showed a fuse with the bomb exploding, with a kind of little cartoon-like explosion like you would see on the Roadrunner. I'm probably dating myself with that reference, but that was a cartoon where they were constantly blowing things up, blowing themselves up. It was that sort of Sunday morning cartoon graphic for kids warning the world. This was 2012, almost 15 years ago, about how Iran could be months away from actually making the bomb. Here from Haaretz in September of 2020, so this is 5 years ago, Iran would have enough fissile missile for nuclear bomb by the year's end, U.S. official says. I mean, isn't it remarkable how repetitious all of this is and how redolent it so obviously is of what we were told in the run-up to the Iraq War? Saddam Hussein was on the market buying aluminum tubes that only had one purpose, which is to build nuclear weapons, already had an active biological weapon program. We only had a small amount of time before we could stop him from gaining nuclear weapons, because if he did, he would pass them to his close friends in Al-Qaeda, an alliance invented by Jeffrey Goldberg while at the New Yorker. It's remarkable how the propaganda never changes, and in their defense, I suppose, the reason it doesn't change is because it constantly works. Here, CNN last year, Secretary of State Antony Blinken says Iran's nuclear weapon breakout time is probably down to 1 to 2 weeks. These same articles over and over for going back, and I didn't realize this, 40 years to the 80s. I thought it began in the late 90s when I had prepared that list with Professor Dershowitz last year. We've given you this list before, but it's remarkable how constant and almost identical these warnings have been, always with the same goal: to rile Americans into a state of fear about Iran, so that the United States once again fights a war in the Middle East that is against Israel's enemies, and that Israel wants, for its own interest, a war to be fought. Thanks for watching this clip from System Update, our live show that airs every Monday through Friday at 7 p.m. Eastern, exclusively on Rumble. You can catch the full nightly shows live or view the backlog of episodes for free on our Rumble page. You can also find full episodes the morning after they air across all major podcasting platforms, including Spotify and Apple. All the information you need is linked below. We hope to see you there.